Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we are diving into something that is quite literally going to change how we interact with the physical world around us, and that is the 6G network. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. When most of us hear about a new cellular network, we just think, faster movie downloads or maybe a slightly better signal on the train. But what researchers are confirming about 6G, it goes way, way beyond anything we've seen before. We are moving from a world where networks just transmit our data to a world where the network itself acts like a giant interactive sensor.
Think about it. For years, the whole conversation around 5G was basically just about speed, right? It was all about how fast data could zip from point A to point B. But 6G is a complete reimagining of what a network actually does. Instead of just pushing data around, this new infrastructure is being designed to sense everything around it. It's built to interact with the physical environment in real time, mapping and sensing the world on a microscopic level. It's an absolutely massive paradigm shift.
So let's dive right into this. Section 1. The shift to 6G, a new reality. And to really understand that shift, we need to look under the hood. Section 2. How ISAC technology works, the radar network. This right here is where things move from pure science fiction to documented reality. You might be wondering, how exactly does a basic communication network suddenly become aware of its physical surroundings? Well, it's all driven by a built-in technology called ISAC. That stands for Integrated Sensing and Communication. And this fundamentally transforms the network because it literally turns every single antenna and base station into an active radar system. Just think for a second about how many cell antennas are scattered around your city right now. They're on buildings, streetlights, cell towers, everywhere. Under this 6G ISAC framework, every single one of those communication points doubles as a radar node, constantly bouncing signals off the physical environment to map out exactly what is happening around it. The physical capabilities here are frankly staggering. Because the network is functioning as a radar, it can actually detect people straight through solid walls. It's so remarkably sensitive that it can measure the microscopic movements of a human chest, meaning it can monitor your breathing and your heartbeat from a distance. Just imagine that. You wouldn't even need to remember to put on your smartwatch to track your vitals anymore. And perhaps most mind-blowing of all, by using machine learning, this system can identify specific individuals purely based on their unique gait or the specific way that they walk. And all of this incredibly detailed mapping of human biology and movement is happening without a single camera. It's entirely driven by the radar capabilities of the 6G ISAC signal itself.
Now, let's look at the other side of the coin here in Section 3, Real-World Life-Saving Benefits, the legitimate users.
When you have a network capable of sensing heartbeats through solid barriers like concrete, the legitimate use cases are absolutely undeniable. Picture disaster rescue operations, for example. If an earthquake hits and a building collapses, first responders wouldn't have to just guess where the survivors are. The 6G network could immediately detect the heartbeats and breathing of anyone trapped under the rubble, right through the walls. Or think about patient monitoring in hospitals. You wouldn't necessarily need to hook someone up to a dozen different wires because the hospital room itself could just monitor their vitals. And for elderly care, the network could instantly detect if someone has fallen in their home or if their breathing becomes distressed, and it could immediately alert medical professionals. The potential to do real good and save lives here is incredible. But of course, a technology that can look right through the walls of your home brings us to Section 4, the ultimate privacy threat, the regulatory pushback. International data regulators are already sounding the alarm over this staggering level of environmental sensing. Back in June, Germany's Data Protection Conference, which is a major regulatory body over there, issued a formal privacy warning. They explicitly called 6G ISAC comparable to invisible video surveillance with significantly broader capabilities. That specific phrase, invisible video surveillance, really perfectly captures the biological intimacy of the data being collected here. Because it doesn't use standard optical cameras, you can't actually see it looking at you. Yet it gathers far more intimate biological data than a traditional camera ever could. And what really makes this different from basically any privacy issue we faced before is the total lack of active participation. With previous tech, you had to opt in somehow, right? But with 6G ISAC, Step 1, no cameras required. Step 2, you don't need to be carrying a phone or wearing a smartwatch for the network to detect you. Step 3, because it's a passive radar scan, no permission is asked, it simply maps the environment. And Step 4, which is definitely the most critical, you cannot opt out. So this leads us to a pretty stark, inescapable reality.
Every 6G base station essentially becomes a passive radar, tracking anyone within its range. If you walk into a 6G zone, you are scanned automatically, without your consent, simply as a byproduct of existing in that physical space. There is absolutely no cooperation required from you at all.
Which frames the massive societal question we are hurtling toward in Section 5, Progress or Surveillance, the 6G dilemma. As we wrap up this explainer, I really want you to weigh these facts. On the one hand, we are looking at a network completely capable of aiding in disaster rescue, revolutionizing elderly care, and locating earthquake survivors through rubble just by zeroing in on their heartbeats. But on the other hand, we are deploying an omnipresent, inescapable grid of invisible surveillance that tracks our physical movements and biological rhythms entirely without our consent. So I have to ask you, does 6G ISAC feel like progress to you, or does it feel like surveillance? Thank you so much for joining me today to explore this fascinating and complex new reality. Keep asking questions, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.